You know the Supermarionation puppets like, I don't know, Scott Tracy or Troy Tempest, for example?
I'm familiar with their work.
Yes, well, the sculptors who created those amazing characters would often base them on famous faces of that day.
Yes, that's right.
So, as we know, Scott Tracy was based on Sean Connery, and Troy Tempest was based on James Garner.
Yes.
There were lots
and Mike Mercury, of course, based on Richard James.
Famously based on Richard James. Amazing future prediction as a co-host of the Gerry Anson podcast. I don't know how they did it. It's quite something. Anyway, lots of the characters were based on famous faces of the times. But we've got some special information about a later Anderson production where a puppet's design was inspired by a chance meeting with a random member of the public.
Right.
So, early in the production on Terrahawks, our dear late friend Richard Gregory had been given the task of coming up with a design for MOID, the master of infinite disguise, who, interestingly, some people think is based on me, but obviously when that was sculpted, I wasn't actually born, so
no, true.
You're just being rude, basically. Anyway, the challenge for Richard was to come up with a design for this faceless look of the character to fit the brief that was in the script, without it being too scary. You know, you couldn't have a sort of a skull covered in bits of mucousy, drying out flesh and all that. I mean, instantly too terrifying, right?
Yeah.
So Richard was always one for having amazing kind of reference books all over the place. He would always refer to kind of historical stuff, to medieval bits and pieces, to Japanese culture and samurai and all that sort of stuff. But in this case, he was referring to some books about burn victims in World War II.
Oh, right.
So quite dark. So while he was researching this and thinking about the design for MOID, he was driving one day and his car got stuck in the snow. A friendly passerby stopped and offered him some help. And would you believe it, this friendly passerby was himself a World War II burns victim.
Oh, gosh. Wow.
Isn't that an amazing coincidence? I mean,
Yes.
Richard was a big believer in coincidences and stuff like that, and the power of those. So this friendly passerby provided Richard with the much-needed inspiration for the final design of MOID.
Well.
So not only was MOID himself written and played as a rather tragic character, but the puppet design itself was equally poignant in its origin.
Yes. Gosh. What a story.
Isn't it amazing where inspiration comes from for character design and stories and all sorts of other stuff?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, as you well know, I mean, Thunderbirds itself, as we discussed in Pod 100, the origins of that is with a terrible mining disaster. And the origins for Trapped in the Sky, the first episode of Thunderbirds, Dad's experience working for the RAF with a plane coming in where its landing gear couldn't be dropped.
Yeah.
So real life feeds in really effectively into fiction, doesn't it?
Oh, always. I always say, Jamie, if you need inspiration, look around you. And I don't just mean at my garage where I'm recording now. I just mean in general, in your daily life, in the people you know, in the situations you find yourself in, because you will find something that you can use, change, adapt, and use in whatever project you're working on.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, you know, the thing that we've been hinting at that's been, talked about later on, a lot of that, as you know, comes from real life and stuff that's been going on over the last few years. And
yeah, indeed.
Real life is an amazing source of inspiration. So there we go.